without no further ado, we have got Kirat. Should I say Kirat or should we say the full name?
Whatever you prefer.
Hard Kirat. Um, Asi, right? Is that it? How do you pronounce it?
Asi.
Asi to see, like Asi.
Asi to see,
Asi to
Asi,
see.
yeah.
Okay, Asi. Okay, Hard Kirat Asi from the Netflix hit series, crazy hit series, named Sweet Bobby. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
Yeah,
You made it.
I made
The
it.
journey, how was the journey?
The journey was good. I talked to people, listened to music, sang. Should have saved my voice.
Well, the
But yeah.
question is, did you have any of my songs playing in the car?
Always.
Always, all right.
On the radio too.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've actually known Kirat, I think like we go back to 2007, 2008, when I first came out to the UK to do music. And Kirat was a radio show host as well as a promoter. And I think you were one of the first promoters to ever book me. I actually got paid for my performance. I was on the come up and nobody wanted to pay. But Kirat was one of the first promoters that booked us and actually paid us and honored us to be on the platform. And, she's been in the industry for literally about the same time, if not longer.
Probably a little bit longer, yeah.
But on the other side of it, obviously, I was more the artist producer. She's more the promoter and the radio presenter and marketing, etc., like that. And it had been like, I would say, you were active in the scene for maybe say from when we met, like say 2008 to about maybe say 2010, because I believe you came to my launch party, which was at Apache's Bar in Birmingham in 2009. I think it was September, the album Revolution, when Yada Dada came out.
Yeah.
And you came to that.
Yeah.
So you were present. And then after that, a while, I think, as life goes on, people see each other on different platforms and stuff. You always see people each other at events and stuff. And then, you're doing your own thing. And I think, when they say out of sight, out of mind, sometimes you don't see the person, you don't reflect on what's happening with their life. You're so busy doing your own thing. And then one day I get a call for one of my friends, and he's like, yo, how you doing? Long time, and we were reminiscing, we're catching about old times and stuff and memories and stuff, and then your name came about. We're like, you remember we did that event? You remember we drove down to Hounslow, we went to this event, Kushti's event, you remember those events? We used to all go drive us around, me and Blitz, shout out to my brother Blitz, you know what I mean? We used to be staying in London. And then, I heard that your name came up and somebody said, did you see a podcast? So let's dive into something like that, because a lot of people are talking about Sweet Bobby, the documentary on Netflix. But apparently it started before that.
Oh, yeah. It started, the podcast came out in 2021. And if it hadn't been for the podcast, there wouldn't be a documentary.
Really?
Absolutely.
So where is this podcast? Like, where can people watch this podcast?
Well, you can't watch it.
Oh,
you can
it's
hear
audio?
it. It's audio only.
Really?
So it's that, now people video podcasts, but then they didn't. It was made in the back end of sort of COVID.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was made by Tortoise. And Alexi Mostris was the journalist who investigated or did the
did
story.
they reach out to you about the podcast, or did they hear about it, or was it like a like you wanted to talk about it? Like, how did it come about? Can we talk about that, or is it a bit of a...
My statement was my witness statement from my legal case was leaked, shall we say.
Okay.
So...
Like the word got out.
No, the document got out.
The TMZ moment, it was gone.
You hear it at the beginning of the first episode where he says, a source handed me a document. And I was not the source.
Oh my God.
Let's put it that way.
Okay. All right, so let's go back here. Okay, so starting from this, what, like, obviously this experience, and we're going to talk about it to the audience, and the audience has a lot of questions, and I'm here, because I've known Kirat for over 15 years, we wanted to, have her on this platform to talk freely, and, she understands because, we come from the same fraternity, same industry, there's no judgment on anybody. We're just here today to talk about her experience. A lot of the questions that people have had after, because everyone's seen the documentary and they have a lot of questions. I watched the documentary, I have questions, and I know you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into that, a little bit of laughter, a little bit of seriousness, but this is just like down to earth, just us friends talking, and there's a screen here with a couple of questions people are talking about. So we're just gonna talk about certain things. So my question to you is, you went through this ordeal, when did this actually start?
We know the first approach that we know of Happened in 2009.
2009. So
Late
you were
2000,
present
mid-late.
at my launch for my first album that was in Birmingham in 2009 September. So was it already initiated at that time?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, because September, I think it was
September,
September
yeah,
17th.
possibly that time.
Okay, because I remember seeing you, and I mean, nothing out of the ordinary. And the amazing thing is, another reason why we're here is because I've known Kirat, and everybody in the industry has known Kirat for a long time. So it wasn't like it was very shocking. Sometimes you hear something about somebody, you're like, yeah, maybe. You kind of think like, okay, banda daisiga, like, yeah, maybe. But because the person that you're around and you see them on the regular, and you laugh and you joke and everything is normal, and then you hear something like that, so it's just like so shocking to think like, really, it can happen to somebody that we know so close. You know what I mean? It hits home like, wow, let me take this in for a minute. You know what I mean? So that experience started. How long did that, for people that know, and this is for people that are just joining in that don't know too much about the situation, we're just gonna kind of softly touch on it and then we'll go into the depth. So how long did this ordeal go along for?
So the whole catfish.
Catfish. Are we using the word? That's
I'm
the
gonna
word,
I'm
right?
gonna say catfish
Okay, we're gonna
because
talk about the word
because
catfish.
there's a difference between the relationship bit and the cat. There's stages of this. It's so complicated.
Yeah.
The whole episode started, we think, in 2009
Right.
and ended in June 2018.
So like almost 10 years.
Yeah, almost. So
That's
just
a
under 9 years.
very
Yeah.
long time, Kirat. 10 years.
Yeah.
So literally, like the prime of your life.
Yeah.
You would say, like I'm
It's
saying,
the good
the
years,
adult
isn't
life,
it?
the good
It's the
years
good
of your adult
years.
life. Prime of my life was around 16 to like 25. But yeah, like an
Yeah.
adult life, that's 10 years is a long period.
Your 30s, yeah.
So after all this happened to you, what was it that made you want to come out? Like I understand, like and not just being Asian in general. I think something like this that happens, people want to hide under a rock or want to hide under a blanket, don't want to expose themselves, don't want to come out. Why did you feel the need to come out and tell your story?
I didn't feel the need to come out and tell my
Really?
story because, like I said,
The
the
document.
witness was leaked. So I either had a choice of letting somebody else randomly tell my story or working with them to make sure they were telling it factually correctly. And they weren't just making it up based on one document. They could
Yeah.
actually see the evidence. So again, it was done properly, journalistically, objectively.
Right.
I wasn't allowed to impose on the journalistic process because it has to be
Right,
objective.
of course, right.
But I could fact check it,
Right,
and
of
I've
course.
also tone checked it because obviously we come from a certain community.
Of course, you have to.
And I think, yeah, respect is important. That's all I wanted it to be done respectfully.
So, do you feel that the documentary Sweet Bobby itself is the perfect representation of the story?
Absolutely not.
Really?
No. How can you fit 9 years into?
No, but what I mean by that is like, is there anything that you feel is not even correct at all?
It's not whether it's correct or not. It's how it's portrayed on. Like, I was filmed for 5 days from morning through till evening with lunch break.
Non-stop.
And from that you've got less than we've probably got an hour of me in that.
Really?
So it can get edited any which way, and I have no control over that process. When they had discussions with me, I said what I didn't want.
Okay. So at least you had some say into certain things that don't want. But did they put them anyway?
No,
Is there anything they put in there that you wish wasn't in there? We don't have to say it what it is, but I'm just asking as a personal question.
Yeah, that's fine. I think without the context, you could say, I wish they didn't put that in there because they haven't explained this bit. So because then that bit looks bad by
It
itself.
just jumps from there and you're like, what just happened?
And the context hasn't been given. They've just picked little snapshots of the journey, and it's confused people because the documentary has big gaps.
Oh, right. Okay.
And there's no way to address those gaps.
I understand. Of course, like you said, because you have to pack it in an hour and a half. nine
Yeah.
years, an hour and a half. So what I've done is I've actually, usually I like to do a freestyle, but because this is something that, people want to, there's a lot of questions, there's so much going on, there's questions on the screen, there's questions on paper, there's questions in my head. There's too many questions, Kirat, what's going on? Okay.
It's one of those things.
Okay. So I guess my question was that I was going to ask you, I think we've already answered it. My question actually was, what's the biggest misconception people have about your experience after watching Sweet Bobby? So I guess that's what it is, because it's not really 100% representation of what actually happened.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is how could it have gone on for 10 years, or the 10-year
Hold
relationship
on.
thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, and this is before we started, I told Kirat, I said, the unanimous question, the unanimous question around the world, it's the same. 10 years in our Punjabi, 10 saal, ये कितना हो गया? But we'll come back to that. We'll leave you
Okay.
hanging for a bit, right? So yeah, so going back to, so that's what.
That's the biggest question. I think the podcast listeners will know,
Okay.
but they'll get it better. But those who haven't watched it, I think the documentary's confused it for them.
Yeah, because I watched the documentary as well because I had to do some homework, Because the thing is, we were talking off camera. I was saying to her, I didn't want to watch it because I've known you for so long. So I didn't really want to watch it and have a biased opinion of saying, okay, no, is this right? Is this wrong? Because that's not why I'm here. I'm here to basically be I'm the people's voice,
No.
So I wanted to address things and ask questions that everybody genuinely wants to know, good, bad, whatever, right? So let's talk about this. What was the most confusing or emotionally overwhelming part of this catfishing experience?
The abusive part at the end, where I didn't recognize myself as a person. I think people don't realize the last couple of years of the experience were intense, abusive. It wasn't good. We talk about domestic violence a
Really?
lot, but the emotional
Yeah.
manipulation, the rages, the threatening behavior, that whole coercive and controlling. Yeah, yeah.
A bit.
So again, where I wanted to speak, or if I tried to speak or tried to do something, I was too scared to do anything. So yeah.
Okay, so at what point did you start questioning Bobby's authenticity, if at all? What made you like this? Like, everyone has a sixth sense.
Yeah.
When you feel your soul doesn't feel right with something, they kind of tell you, right? Where was that, where did that stop and became no, this is right? Like, where was that line drawn to feel like, am I doubting this, or no, I'm not doubting this at all?
I could probably pinpoint that quite
Really?
accurately. Yeah, it was an incident that happened in July 2016.
Are we allowed to talk about it?
Partially.
Okay, sure.
I think
Please.
partially because just to let people know, there's a police case that's open, so I have to be
So, yeah, you
careful
have to be careful.
what I say and what I can't say. But there was an incident in July 2016 where I'd seen something online, and I'd question, I'm not the kind of person where if your partner does something wrong, that I kind of try and snoop behind that person's back first.
You're probably one of the only ones.
I go straight up to the person and say, I've just seen this.
Oh, right.
Explain it to me.
You don't beat around the bush.
I don't beat around the bush. I don't try and do my own detective work first.
Right.
If I've found something, I'll confront the person with it and say, can you explain this to me first? Right. And it was something where it hadn't been like a cheating thing, but it had been a lying thing.
Okay.
And I couldn't understand.
On the other person's behalf or your behalf?
Oh, that person. I'd been lied to.
Oh, you've been lied to, right?
Yeah, I'd been lied to in the relationship part.
Okay.
But the situation had been that I couldn't physically comprehend. And I think it wasn't even that. It was the first, excuse me, the first time that the actual trust between a relationship. So lots of bad things had happened before then.
Okay.
But that was the time where that person had physically chosen to do something against me or not tell me something.
So that was the point you felt like, if this is for me or not? Did you ever question it? Or was it like till 2018 you didn't say this is not for me?
Oh, no, I tried to get out of the relationship. Even before that, I tried to get out of the relationship because people need to realize that I only got into the relationship because it was his dying wish to be with me. He was in palliative care. He was not well. We were told he wasn't going to live beyond.
Right. So you almost felt guilty, like if you were to abandon this at this state, you don't know what the health impact will be on that person.
Yeah, that was what was so. When I then was told, like, oh no, no, he's on this trial and he's not gonna, he's, it's working, and I'm
Right.
like, okay, now
So
I'm
they're
stuck in
stringing
this
along the hope,
situation.
right?
So because no,
It's
no,
almost like a blackmail without blackmailing.
yeah, it's that guilt that you
Yeah, the
carry.
guilt trip, right? It's like,
You can't leave a sick person who's that sick, and I've got the consultant
so
constantly
you were
telling me,
told. I mean,
yeah. So yeah,
so you were told. I
by
mean, like,
his cousins
under
and
the
by
impression
the
that that's what.
medical team and whoever else that you've got to be very careful with him. I couldn't shout and scream at him. I couldn't, I had to be very careful because he had a very delicate heart, and he would have angina attacks or things like that where often I had to intervene.
So now I'm thinking, like, you met. I mean, this initiated 2009. 2016 is where obviously this kind of started taking a turn for the worse. I'm
The
assuming.
worst,
Like
yeah.
that was the downhill part of it, right?
Yeah.
What was that moment? And I'm sure you could remember. What was that moment that you fully submissive to this relationship, where you just like, this is it for me? You knew, like, I don't care about the rest of the world. This is my life.
Well,
Like, where, at what point, and what? This two-part question.
Go on.
At what point did you feel that, and what made you so sure that this is it?
Okay, so
So this is live because you don't have an answer.
no,
for
no.
it. She's thinking.
I'm like,
So
how do I
it's not,
explain
it's
it
not no
well?
pre-written questions.
How do I explain it well? So this is because obviously, like I said, I got stuck in this relationship where I thought he was going to die, but he didn't. But then you're like, okay, in all this time, he's only ever treated me with respect,
Right.
and he's treated me well. He knows everything. Like he knows enough about me for him to have gone, nah, I don't want to be with her. And I know enough about him. And yeah, but like he's always treating me, and everybody around him is saying to me, it's different with you. Like we've never seen him like this before. So other people, including my own cousin, is telling me no, like this makes sense. And not just that, a few years before, one of his friends had sent me screenshots saying, like, look, he's had a conversation with me here saying he liked you. But I was in a relationship at the time and I was like, nah, he since then married somebody else. So he was always married. So when he first approached me, he was married. He divorced that person, got married to somebody else. Apparently in between that period, he'd had a conversation with somebody else.
Right.
And I'd had screenshots sent to me.
So this has been like in process way before you even
It was on my sanity.
Yeah. Like before you even thought of it.
Yeah.
So, and I think everybody would like to know this. Have you ever actually met Bobby, the real Bobby?
Yeah, so I met him. What before this or after
No,
this?
like in life, like, because I remember you saying on the
Brighton.
documentary you guys are from Kenya, so it's like a very small community.
So we may have in the past been in the same place. Our families are definitely. I know.
Right. So everybody knows of everybody. You might see them around.
I can explain how closely connected we are. His bua and my bua are Rani Jatani.
Well, that's close. Or at least closer than a person would imagine.
And on my Facebook at that time, I had pictures of me with his bua.
Okay.
And I know her. Like we chat like face to face. I've seen her at a funeral not a few months ago. So, but it's close enough.
Okay. So when I was watching the documentary, and like as we were talking off air, the word red flags, you know what I mean? They didn't exist back in 2009. That lingo didn't exist. We didn't even have Instagram and stuff back then, did we? No. We didn't have Instagram in 2009.
Instagram came back in 2012, 11, 12, yeah, something like that.
Like, I seen the documentary. You went to a club with your mates in Brighton. Apparently, I think Bobby.
It's a hen weekend.
It was a hen weekend.
Yeah.
Right? I think for your cousin or one
my
of your mates.
best friend.
Right. And you saw Bobby in the club.
Yeah.
And this was when 2011. So that means you're already in this situation for 2 years now.
I'd only been speaking to Bobby. That was March 2011. I'd only been speaking to Bobby since October 2010.
So when you say 2009,
that was somebody else. His brother I was speaking to. His brother was the first non-real person. So what you have to understand is in this.
This is a deep web.
It's not one person. We've found.
Well, I mean, obviously there's one person behind it all, but there's so many culprits.
I was talking, or I was aware of at least. We are now aware of at least 60
different
people,
make-believe individual identities.
Yeah, using Some of them are real people. Most of them are real people that we can verify. As in, we know that's a real person. Like, I know Bobby's a real person. I knew his brother
of
is.
course,
I know,
obviously.
yeah. So most of them are real
Actual
people.
real people.
Yeah. But we know there's more. But they will use, a lot of them were using, the active ones were using multi channels as well. So they weren't just on Facebook and Messenger, they were also on WhatsApp. They also had an Instagram. Even though I wasn't on Instagram at that time, just in case I went on it, they were there.
Oh my God.
So, you know, it's like, it's multi-pronged approach.
Okay, so you have never met this guy before physically.
Knowingly.
You've seen him around.
Yeah.
Knowingly. You
Yeah.
might be in the same room and stuff. Fine. You are, so you said you met him in March of 2011 and you had started talking to him in October of 2010, right? So it's about 6 months about that, right? So in 6 months, you've never seen him, never had a photo, never actually had a conversation, just literally a conversation on text, I'm assuming, at that for the first couple of months.
It was on, there wasn't Messenger then, it was Facebook. Remember chat?
Chat, yeah, Facebook chat, yeah.
Do you remember that green light used to come?
I remember that. Used to go
Back in those days.
And you had green tick if the guy's online. There's a green button.
That green light that used to come on every chat used to come up. Your green light was on, everybody decides to talk to you. Yeah, remember those days? And you had to be online on a computer to talk.
Right.
It wasn't on your phone. There wasn't an app.
So it was just an account that you're talking. There's no video calls. There's nothing. It's just,
there's no video call. But again, the profile's there. The faces are there. You know that in the network.
You feel the person's there.
My cousins, my family, community family friends were all mutual friends of these people.
Yeah, obviously.
On the fake profiles.
This is getting too deep. Jesus. Okay. So question what I'm trying to say. So you see him in the club. Were you drinking that night or no?
No, I was sober that night.
Okay. So you guys are out for your hand and you see Bobby in the club and you approached him. Well, first you saw him, you were like, whoa.
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
What are the odds, right?
Yeah.
What are the odds? What are the odds?
Because I didn't even know he lived in Brighton at that time.
That's what I was about to just ask you. Did you know he was actually from Brighton?
No.
So you guys went randomly to Brighton to
We'd only had a few very formal exchanges. The reason why he'd approached me was because of a family thing.
Okay.
And it was to pay respects for somebody.
Right.
And that was the reason. And my cousin had sent me his email address and I had not... I was like, I don't know him that, like, you know, do I, don't I?
Like I know him of him, but I don't know him like that.
So I didn't bother.
Right.
And then a month later, he finds me on Facebook and says, oh, Simran said, da-da-da-da-da-da, kind of thing. And...
So my question to you is, okay, and it's not just my question, a lot of people want to know. So you saw him, you went up to him, you said, hey, Bobby, it's me, Kirat, we talk on Facebook, blah, 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 blah. And he was just like oblivious to like, what are you on about, right?
He wasn't like rude.
Obviously, no.
Yeah.
I mean, in the documentary, obviously, it wasn't the real interaction, but what was the actual conversation?
So so on his Facebook, like there were loads of pictures, and his Facebook was like a normal Facebook. Right.
And so, this is his actual Facebook?
Yeah. This is an actual Facebook profile. Okay. So I wasn't on his Facebook profile. His friends. So he was actually with one of the friends on his Facebook profile in the club.
Oh.
He's a ginger, so I couldn't miss him either.
Okay,
right. So you got a Sardar with a ginger.
Shout out to all the gingers. Yeah.
A Sardar with a ginger, both really tall in a club. You're not going to miss them. Come on. And you recognize both of them.
Yeah, of course.
So I followed them, and I'd gone to my friends. Oh my God. Remember I said to you, I like chatted to that person. That's... you know, that kind of thing. And I said, I'm just going to go pop over. And I was thinking strange because we've only spoken online. But I went across and it was like probably about 1:45 in the morning. And you think it was loud in there. And I'm going, and I was wearing a dress and I was like, he was up there and looking down. I was hands here. And I was like, Bobby. And I followed him and he was like, yeah. And again, it was like, he wasn't even nasty or anything. He was just like,
in his own vibe, and
he was in his own vibe, and it was just like, I don't like. And I was like, oh,
yeah, I guess
you don't want to embarrass somebody who's been so polite and respectful, and you think, do you know something? It's not the time or place.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, it wasn't a big deal. It was just somebody I've spoken to online.
True. Okay. But what people want to know is that, okay, fine, you've spoken to the person, you've actually seen the person. How come you never decided to confront him about it? Listen, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, we all know women, right? Something like that, no woman is going to wait more than 24 hours to bring it up and say, why didn't you recognize me? Why didn't you talk to me? Like, did it never occur to you to actually confront him and say, hey, Bobby, I saw you last night. Maybe you were under the influence, but how can you just blank me like that?
It wasn't...
Or do you think that level of chat wasn't to that level where you could question him and say, why
No,
didn't you ask me?
it was very
Just a very, it
respectful.
was a very, like,
Respectful. It was a very respectful. Like I think he'd just gone through a divorce. He'd spoken to me like, "Oh, I'm getting divorced now," kind of thing. So I knew he was in a bad place.
Okay.
Kind like he might have been. And again, the conversation had been respectful, and I was busy. It was my friend's hen.
no, I hear,
And
no.
again, the other thing is you have to log in on a computer online to chat to somebody. So it's not in your,
It's not your priority.
and I don't have his phone number. It's not like you can get on your phone on an app. So when
Yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah. No,
and
I remember those
yeah.
days. It wasn't as easy to connect with somebody as it is now. Like
Yeah,
we're on
you know that-
Instagram, we're on TikTok
TikTok,
Live.
yeah.
If we can check if Instagram is on, so we can go back on that as well. Another question I want to know. So, okay, so what was the most significant sacrifice you think you made in order to honor this relationship?
I don't know. It's that belief, isn't it? It's that, it's you sacrifice for what they said. It was the promised life, even though I was always adamant that I was going to have work, because he was like, you don't have to work, and I was like, no, I don't. I'm a workaholic. I work.
Oh, because they come from a wealthy family.
Well, yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Or do you think that's because in our culture
He was
it's
a
like that?
medic. He was
Oh,
a
he's a
medic.
medic
Yeah.
also,
So
so
and he was like,
financially stable.
and he was like, you've always
You're-
had it tough. You've always been working, and you're a workaholic. And but I enjoy work. So it was. So I think for me, working, and getting me away from work, and just that whole holding me back from doing, because I was like doing things.
Yeah,
I was
no, of
going
course,
places.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
doing
You're an
things.
independent, strong woman,
And
and
the
you were
things that,
doing big things.
yeah, and the things that people don't know is outside of like the media side and the radio and all that music side, that's the thing that people see.
Yeah.
On the other side of it, I was working with MPs and
Yeah,
politicians
yeah.
and doing
I remember.
other stuff.
Yeah.
And so nobody knows that side. So I was going places. I was really happy with my trajectory, shall we say? and so losing that trajectory was probably
Probably one of the main
yeah.
things that stick with you even today, I'm assuming.
Yeah, because I mean that's the only thing that I can probably for certain rebuild, but it's hard.
Yeah, oh, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
So, how did Bobby's constant health crisis affect you mentally and emotionally?
Anyone who's looked after anybody who's not well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you look after your parents, your grandparents, and children. It's just
Yeah, you know how hard it is.
100%.
Now try doing that with somebody where you don't have anybody else looking after them, really, and they're by themselves, and you're not in the same place. So the burden is on you, and the burden is also the fact that if something happens to him, you have to answer to his family. So it's that. So I had already in October 2015, I had already at work said I need counselling.
Okay.
So I'd clearly, and I'd said it to Bobby's consultant as well, because I was like, anybody here, if you go to a hospital and they're like, if you need support, you need help, ask us, there's this support group, there's this. And I'm like, I'm doing this like this.
Yeah.
It's going to impact me. I am mentally exhausted. So I reached out to my work counselling.
Okay.
Through HR, I reached out. I had one session and trying to explain the situation was a bit scary, complex. Yeah.
So it basically you didn't pursue it then?
Well, it wasn't that. I didn't tell Bobby I was doing it. I told him after that I had a counselling session at work today. And
do you think that was a trigger point for the perpetrator to
make it worse?
Shift the goals?
That is exactly when it got worse. The first lot of worse happened.
I can understand. Okay.
Yeah.
So, did you ever share moments of your joy with Bobby, or was it always about his problems and his crisis and how he's feeling?
What do you mean? In terms
Like,
of
what I mean
moments
is
of joy?
that, like, when you were chatting to Bobby, whether through the phone, whether through text messages, did you ever share, like, happiness of your life, like your accomplishments? Say, for example, you got this, I don't know, you're doing this marketing job and it done really well. Did you share these things, or was it constantly about, oh, he's unwell and I can't do this and this is what's happening in my life? And was it always fixated on Bobby itself, that storyline? Or were you also involved in like a 50-50 partner relationship where both of you are comforting each other and carrying on in this relationship?
That was one of the things where because I wasn't attracted to Bobby.
You were or weren't?
Weren't. Like I said, it's Bob Brozone. So
How did it go from bro zone to like?
because it was a bit sickening, to be fair. Because I broke up. My relationship broke up at the end of August 2014, and yeah, so I was
Okay,
things break up. Yeah.
so basically, the question a lot of people were also wanting to know was that, okay, if you are invested in this, what you want to call it, relationship,
Hmm.
since say even say like October 2010, forget 2009 because you said October 2010 is where you really started kind of talking to Bobby, and then you met him in the club in
But I
March.
wasn't invested.
Or at that time you weren't invested, but at
This
least
is
I'm
my
saying that was
point.
the
Yeah.
next step from 2009.
In 2009, I was talking to his brother. 2010, he was living his life. He was married. He got married. He moved to Australia, found a new partner, got married there. So he's living his life. I'm living my life. We're both. There's no interest.
So my question, just what I'm saying is, people want to know. These are remember these are
Yeah.
questions that a lot of people have sent in. So they were saying, okay, if you were already in a relationship, how do you allow yourself to get close or be the shoulder for another person that you haven't met or haven't really had any personal connection?
It's a
How were you guys not together at that time when this was happening, or
no. My partner knew.
your partner knew?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Why? Because it's a brother figure, right?
Oh, so your partner knew that this is just a friend,
It's just a friend. Like you're my friend.
right?
If you ever came to me with a problem, I would listen to
Problem, right,
you.
right, right, right.
Would I not?
Okay.
It doesn't mean anything between
So,
us, does it?
so at what moment was it that your original relationship had ended and this became a relationship?
So, February 2015 on Valentine's Day, but he declared his love for me in October 2014 when I'd gone like, oh, like, what the hell?
And you weren't with the other partner.
No.
Okay.
But I wasn't even when he said it to me, I'd stood my ground and was like, I know he was very unwell at the time. And I'd kind of stood my ground and been like, I feel really guilty saying no.
Yeah,
But
so we went back to that, and it's just like you almost feel like you're kind of like tied into it. Like, if I can't say no now,
I could at
you
that
know
point,
you
yeah.
could, but why
Because he
didn't
was a
you?
brother. I did.
Okay,
I said no.
in October of 2014.
Yeah, he basically
So you were basically a. So let me get this straight. So when, like, I'm just a
I
little
couldn't leave
confused.
the
Yeah.
situation because I needed to be the shoulder to lean on, and his cousin at that point, and that
Okay. So
everyone was pressuring me.
what was the time scale between the time that you were introduced to Bobby, or whenever he messaged you, supposedly, right? He messaged you, and his incident in Kenya where he got shot. How far apart was that?
That happened in at the end of 2013.
2013. So you guys were friends up to 2014 October, because that's when he kind of confessed his love to you. So at that moment, you were literally a friend, because you said he confessed his love to you about October 2014, correct?
Yeah, so we couldn't be brother sister anymore,
Yeah,
could we?
obviously.
Yeah.
Please, this is a different type of podcast, right?
It's weird, isn't it?
So, so okay. So, okay, this makes sense. So basically, when you were introduced, you guys were talking. So I'm just trying to make sense of the
I was
situation. So
talking to his wife.
that's what I'm about to get
Yeah.
to. Hold on, hold on.
Oh.
So I'm just trying to make this as normal as possible. As a normal person, okay. I know this guy in the community. We talk on Facebook. He decided to confide in me and talk to me about certain problems he's having. And suddenly, back home where you all know familiarity is Kenya, you guys all come from Kenya and stuff. So there's a whole family over there, community you are connected with, so you can hear, the news and what's happening out there. And you hear about this incident that happened.
It came up on my feed.
It came up.
What? I was doing my radio show and
Obviously,
it
because
came up on my
somebody, obviously, okay, right, from one of the
somebody
accounts.
else had
Somebody else.
posted, my friend has been da 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 da, and it came up on my feed. I was doing my radio show, and at that time the monitor used to be on my left, and to monitor like any Facebook activity for the show, and it just came up in my feed.
So that footage in the documentary, that's not real, or is that the
No,
actual?
it's not real.
I was gonna say.
No, it's not real.
Okay, so at that moment, okay, you were basically, so going back to making sense of it. Okay, it's a Facebook friend, this and that, something horrible happened. Obviously, you've been talking for a while, so you have a soft spot for somebody.
Yeah,
like, oh my God, as a
you
friend,
do,
you're like,
yeah.
wow, this happened to them. So you're there, and So I'm assuming because of that situation and because their limited ability to speak or even write or whatnot, the relationship was escalating in a way because you were just being a comfort shoulder to him. And at
No.
what point did that?
This is no. That's so at that time he's
No, no,
married.
no. I know. As a friend, I'm saying you were there
I
as a
wasn't.
shoulder as a friend.
No, I wasn't talking to him because I didn't need to talk to him. His wife and my cousin and his friend, 3 women who were there with him, including my cousin, were giving me updates because he wasn't conscious. So they were giving me
No,
updates.
sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe I missaid it. What I meant is, okay. So after he supposedly came out of his coma and was able to speak, I'm saying that period of time you were just a friend to him.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. Brother,
Until
sister thing.
2014 October, because that's when it kind of like you said he
Weird.
confessed
It
his
got
love.
weird. Yeah.
So maybe a little bit before that was kind of leaning up. Maybe you guys. When did you think that you started liking this whole situation? Like when was that moment that you didn't even realize you were in it already? Because
So
that's how it happened, isn't it?
so the craziness, let's call it the craziness, because that the relationship was never a question. There was never any thought of a relationship. I always thought, yeah, I can see why girls like him, but it's not my kind of. He's not my cup of tea. Sorry, there's a fly. If anyone's wondering what I'm doing,
He's trying to get on Instagram Live.
yeah.
Is the Instagram back up or no?
Okay.
Sorry, Instagram. We'll figure it out.
So I was like, he's not my cup of tea. And I always used to say to him, you're a good catch for whoever, because I was in love with somebody else.
Yes.
Very.
Yeah.
And so it's just like the fact that he said I love you to me,
right?
Like even when the
was that in the friend zone or was that like once things started progressing a bit?
Because we were brothers, like literally 2 weeks before, he said it to me. You know the Bhangra Awards that are coming up.
Yeah.
I'd been nominated for Best Radio Presenter, and he had posted up on his profile, "Vote for my sister."
And this is from the made account, not the original account.
Well, this is the account
that you
that
think is, right.
That other people could see as well,
right.
and so it's so he's written "Vote for my sister," right? So we're just very clear on what the line is.
100% no. It's just
there's even in the evidence you can see like little memes being sent to me about my sister is this the kind of thing. So there's never any question of it. So when he said it, it was like what? I ignored it. I ignored it first.
Most girls do that.
Oh, okay, I don't know.
It's like I seen an episode. I think it was Friends episode when Ross is like, "I love you," she's like, "Thank you."
Like yeah.
That would be all good. That's pretty much what you did, right?
Yeah.
He's like, "I love you." You're like, "Thanks."
It was like, did you read what I just said? And I was like, yeah, I did.
I chose not to respond to it. All right, let me ask another question, right? Were the moments where Bobby's story or behavior didn't add up, but you ignored it because you already had feelings that were developed? Like, after you developed feelings, did you feel like there were so many red flags now that you're looking back and thinking like, man, what the hell was I thinking?
Yeah, so for me, when I got into the relationship, there was like deep conversations with the consultant. Because the consultant was adamant, it's there in the conversation where I'm going, but I still love my ex, I think.
Oh my God.
Like,
I think I'm just looking at the TikTok battery. What's happening with the phone? It's looking like a battery's running low. We want to make sure we make sure we don't get cut off from here because Instagram, you did us dirty today. Let's see. I'm just gonna lean up a little bit and see what's happening on TikTok.
Go
what
for
kind
it,
of questions?
go for it.
We have a pack show. We just want to make sure that TikTok is running. Someone said there was never a relationship.
Well, there wasn't there was never physically,
no relationship.
But when you're in it, you think there is, obviously, don't you? Like lots of people meet online now. If you look at the stats,
of course. No, I understand. Look, there's no wrong, there's no right.
No.
Some people are gonna side with you. Some people are gonna say it's crazy.
It's everyone's
some people
opinion.
Are gonna say,
yeah,
it's everybody's opinion. As long as at the end of the day, the most important part is you came out of this. It could have gone very pear-shaped in many different ways in life. You know how things are.
Oh yeah, it could have gone pear-shaped.
Very bad. You could have gone very bad. They could have gone very bad. Anything could have happened. But we're glad that we're here just to have a chat about it.
Because we're talking about it I think people get confused because we're talking about it using the characters. We're not. You've got to realize that I'm talking to the consultant. I'm talking to I'm saying because that's how complicated it was. It 100%. Sounds like a real thing,
100%.
But it's one person.
That's the crazy stuff. Okay, so like now, let's talk about discovering the truth.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was your immediate reaction when you first suspected that, huh?
So it wasn't that I suspected that Bobby was living a double life. Like, you know, like people get caught, like
Okay,
he's got two,
right. Two
he's,
accounts. He's
well, I just thought he was cheating on me. He had a life with another person
okay.
and he had a life with me, like for some reason.
Hold that thought. Life with another person. So another question people want to know is like, okay, who in their right mind would introduce their wife to somebody else and have a chat with them in a three-way? Guys don't do that.
Did they not?
Girls, I like, even from a girl's perspective, like, I don't know. I mean, this is my experience. I'm just throwing it out there. Like, you guys tell us on TikTok, like, would a girl introduce her husband to a male friend and have a Facebook group, or the other way around? Did you
Yeah.
not find that a bit
Well, we're
weird?
not, because we're not physically in the same country or the same space. You do.
No,
So,
but
but
you,
I had individual
but
chats with
didn't you
them
feel?
too. It wasn't like a
So
group. It
you
was
know,
individual.
no. Even so, what I'm saying is the fact that you, at this moment, are still friends with Bobby. You're still the bro zone, right? When you found out that he was married and all that stuff, and when you were talking to his wife and stuff, apparently on the accounts, you were still in the bro zone with him, right?
Always.
Right.
Yeah.
So didn't you find it a bit awkward to say, "Why am I talking to his wife"?
So
No, I'm just
no,
saying
no,
the
no, no.
normal. Yeah,
I'm
right.
gonna explain this to you because
Right.
I did
Yeah.
find it
Exactly.
because I didn't know him that well.
Right.
I'd been invited to his wedding and I was with my partner and we talked about like going because the wedding was in Kenya
Yeah.
and my ex partner had been born in Kenya and had never gone back and always wanted to go back. So it was like because of we had a family situation going on and I couldn't go. She would have known that. But like I talked to my partner, it would have been a really good time for like you and me to have gone and you to have gone back. So we would have gone together as a couple too if we had the chance to. But it was just the circumstances were that I just couldn't go to the wedding, right? But given I found it strange that I was invited,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
right? But for me it was like a chance to go to Kenya and for my partner to go. But I found I didn't talk to his wife because that's me, just generally. Like, if you or any other one of my male friends got married, I have a rule: I don't call them after 9 o'clock. You know, if it's work,
Yeah,
it's
right,
work.
right.
But unless we don't need to do that,
Right, right.
right? And their partner should know who I am. That's it, straight. So that's how I am. But I got a message saying, Sand thinks you don't like her because you don't talk to her. And I was like,
So
what?
this message is from within this friend circle?
No, this is Bobby telling me.
Oh.
This is Bobby telling me that his wife thinks I don't like her because I don't talk to her. And I'm like, does she think? Like, then you're thinking, what is she thinking about me? Is she thinking I don't talk to her because I have something
some
for him?
feelings for Bobby.
Yeah, and I was
exactly.
thinking, like, now I have to talk to her.
So you're basically the perpetrator's playing a game of chess here with you.
Oh yeah, constantly.
It's
This
not,
is
it's
all
not
it
even, that's more than chess. It's like chess, checkers, backgammon. It's all in one.
Yeah, so it's there, and it's like I was like, okay, and I actually had to like message her, and I was like, hi, I don't want you to think that I don't like you or anything. It's just that you guys are married, you guys are doing your happily married thing now. It's like that whole thing, and I don't know.
So out of all these things that you went through, what was like the most painful lie that you uncovered and like that you felt like, oh, that hurt the most? Obviously the fact that it wasn't real, but what was it that hit you like a ton of bricks when you found out it wasn't real? What was
What
it?
do you mean, right at the end, the confession, or before that?
It's during the moments when you found out that this is real, whether it started leading up to the actual, when you walk to the house, and that's obviously when you realize what the hell's going on here, because this is not happening. Like, what was the most painful moment that you felt like out of, like, if you were to pinpoint and say, you know what, Roach, out of this whole 10 years experience or 9.5 year experience, what was the most painful moment for you?
I think it would be the same moment that most people would find out when he eventually said, I cheated on you. So like when people think the most online relationships, like with these catfish things, are perfect, aren't they?
Yeah.
There was just enough not perfect things going on to make it whatever. And so it was that, and I was already a mess by this time. And
So when was it like,
I
what
hated
did
it.
it for you? Like, what I mean by what did it for you is like,
What made
What
me
was
go to
that?
Brighton?
No, no, not that. What was the moment that you were just wrapped? Like that's it. This is you. This I've fallen for this guy.
Oh,
What was
so
that
that would
moment?
have been, that would have just, that was more the fact that,
Because beyond that, then there's really no right or wrong because you're in it. So to
yeah,
you,
so the
everything's
moment
right.
that I was in it was, okay, so the relation started in February 2015.
Yeah.
And then, there were difficult periods on that because of his sickness. And I thought he was going to die
Right. Of course.
from in like July. We'd given no longer than July. So that's all that was. So I was in it once I knew he wasn't going to die.
So once you knew he wasn't gonna die.
Yeah, because then you've made a commitment,
Right.
but he's still not 100%, and you
then don't
can't
you
leave
think?
that person. And I thought, do you know something? He's always respected me. He's always been really like, despite what he's physically going through and everything, what he's always chosen me over everything else, over everyone else. He's always done this, and even though I don't feel like, old school thing, like, our parents learn to love
Yeah,
each
yeah,
other,
yeah.
right?
Right,
You know,
right.
think like he's not a bad person, and he's
So
not.
like, Kirat, like any normal person on TikTok right now or Instagram anywhere would have one simple question like
Go on.
9 to 10 years, but not one proper phone call or a video call. Like, how do you allow yourself to go that long? Like, I'll give you an example. Like, when we were younger, obviously we go out to clubs and stuff, you meet people, we do things. If a person I haven't seen or talked or I feel like they're playing hard to get or whatever the case may be for not allowing me to be able to either know who they are or even a physical contact, like I need to know. I don't think that's just me, the personally.
Yeah.
I don't think I would allow that to be longer than max maybe 4 or 5, max, let's say a week. If I feel like the person is not even coming to my terms, because what is this? A game at the end of the day? There's a cat and mouse at the beginning. There's a cat and
Yeah.
mouse. So it's like I'm thinking, okay, if the girl's not sending me a picture, she's not showing me nothing. Like, first of all, I'm thinking like, is this even a real person, or one of my friends is making a joke out of me? Like, you would have these thoughts. Did you ever have those thoughts?
No, because he was sending me pictures, but where he was in the hospital, he wasn't allowed to, and we got told off for share. Like he got told off for sharing
But
stuff. But what he had done was shared pictures of his like other pictures, shared his whole family. He talked through his family. This is person, this is, and told me the personalities. And I was like, oh, actually, I know this person, and I know. It was that we'd done, like shared the whole family thing, being like, talk to me about, opened up.
yeah, like
So
obviously,
that
like
kind of thing. So he was, what he could share, he did.
right.
And we did get told off, and the consultant actually told me off as well. They're like, you don't understand, he's not supposed to be, this whole like witness protection
Yeah, so that's what I was
situation.
going to ask you. The witness protection. Now, I think I read somewhere or heard somewhere or somebody put on comments that witness protection was supposed to end in 2 years.
It was supposed to end that December,
Of which year?
that same year.
2014 or
No, because he, 2015.
2015. So that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. So if it was supposed to end, what happened? How come you didn't say, okay, it's ended now, I'm going to fly to New York and come see
No,
you?
he was supposed to come here.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
why didn't you at one point say, you know what, screw all this. I don't care. If I love this person, you know what? Forget you. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm just going to fly to New York and come see you and surprise you. Why didn't
There
you
was
do that?
because I didn't know what hospital he was in, I wasn't allowed to be told, and I tried to get it out.
Under the witness protection
But I did my
scheme.
scheming to try and find out later on.
Okay.
But at that point, so I had to be patient. I knew.
No, but then apparently in the document, Simran went and picked up a T-shirt for you or something, no?
Yeah, that was later on. That was much later on.
Okay, that was not right away. That was how many years?
Oh, actually, no, that was 26. That's 2016.
So why was she allowed to know and you weren't?
That was my issue.
Wasn't that the trigger point
That
for you to say,
was-
yo, what the hell?
that
This
was-
could be something weird.
That was my issue. No, it's the first time. Yeah, when I got the T-shirt was, I know I had two lots of presents that she brought back. She went twice. The first time was the T-shirt and the earrings. The second time was I'm going to get confused because it's so long ago and I try not to think about it. But there were two lots of presents. First time they got sent to a hotel, so she didn't meet him. Second time she met him. And I was like, why is he allowing you to? So I questioned her as well. I had an argument with her.
Or is she from UK? In and out?
She's a Kenyan family, but she's here in the UK.
Okay, right.
But she made out she was more Kenyan than she isn't.
Oh, right, okay.
So all those visits that she apparently had to Kenya, she didn't. She only had the one.
Oh, really?
Apparently. So I don't know.
So
because her parents said
did
that.
you ever not to find out, did you ever realize why the person would do that to you? Were you guys cool growing up? Was there any family issues like that? Or do you think the issues were more for maybe her past with somebody else that you kind of got the strays for?
I think, yeah, something like that possibly, because obviously those profiles were there before I got.
Oh, really?
Well, obviously, for that profile to have approached me, the first profile to have approached me,
Yeah.
someone's made
But
that,
that's what I'm
right?
saying. Because like, look, when any normal circumstances, somebody adds me on Facebook. First of all, don't add me.
Yeah,
I don't require. I don't accept.
That's because my Facebook quite private.
Yeah, exactly. But I would look at the picture, right? So I'd go out and be like, who is this person? I'd look at the picture, and then you could see how active this is, how legit this account is, because you could see one or two posts, you're like, this is rubbish. But if you see a whole life, because you're saying that these accounts were made far prior to connecting with you, so they had so much legitimacy on that because there was so much posts.
Because my cousins were on it. My first
They've
cousins
added your cousins.
my uncles, yeah.
Yo, this person has some serious vendetta, or just free
Just to
time?
tell you a little story. So after the documentary came out, one of my uncles messaged me. So I used to go and see my uncle before my radio show every week because they were nearby. And he used to joke with me, like, what is this Bobby doing? You're right? He used to joke with me. Then he said, and I remember he said to me once, he said, why don't you just marry him? His life would be sorted, is what he said to me. And I was like, ugh, don't be stupid.
That was the bro zone.
Yeah, that was the bro zone. I was like, oh, don't be stupid. Like, no, I'm no chance. And he messaged me and he said, don't you remember and I was like, don't you remember you said to me, why don't you marry him? He goes, but I didn't know it was a catfish. And I said, nor did I. That's the whole point. So everyone was sucked in, and people are scared to admit they were sucked in because at that point, Facebook was what it was. Like loads of artists had 2 pages because there was no page.
Yeah.
So people had a public one and a private one, right?
No, that's okay. Wow, this is some heavy stuff, man.
This is crazy.
And you know what? I'm just gonna lean in and see some TikTok question as well.
Go for it.
TikTok. Someone. I can't even read this, bro. It's probably staged, man. Well, I don't know if it's 10 years staged. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, the first few years, I didn't, like I said, we were coming to your gigs, we were doing stuff. Yeah. I didn't know.
Like you disappeared, but like the thing was no, not to say you disappeared, but I'm saying because me and Blitz were like, we were hungry, right? Yeah. So we were at every event, every meal, like every club, obviously. And like I said, you get sidetracked, division, you're doing your thing. Yeah. You don't, it's not to say we don't check up on people, but you assume everybody's all right doing their thing because we're part of the same fraternity. Yeah. But then when this came out, I was just like, I was mind boggled, like, Kirat?
Yeah. My uncle passed away in 2010, so I stopped going out as much. Okay. I was very close to one of my uncles, and I'd stopped going out as much. And my time then, you're gonna laugh now. Instead of going out, I would go and spend it with my naniji, my manji, and like we used to do in the car. I used to sit. We used to get the vajja out. We used to sit and used to sing until 2 or 3 o'clock. So that was my kind of. So I would be doing that with her. So I went out less unless it was like an important event. I really didn't go out as much.
So do you think it's right to say that when you were approached by this situation, call it a relationship, whatever you want to call it, you weren't already in the right mental space because there was so much other things going on in your life? And do you think that had an effect to be a little bit vulnerable for this situation?
I don't know.
Without knowing it in your subconscious, maybe?
I think there's on YouTube, there's a timeline that Tortoise did. Now, you've got to understand, I am busy with my life. I don't care I'm not big on social media, as in I don't care about friends. My social media is private. Obviously, my cousin was added to my social media because she's my cousin, right? Even some of these people that I talk to online, I didn't add them. I refused to add them because I'm not close to them. They don't need to see my life. So I'm very private in that sense. After all early Twitter days, there were loads of like artist spats on Twitter. I just stopped tweeting. Do you remember those days? Early Twitter days were like artists cussing each other all the time. So I stopped getting in. Like I didn't want to be involved, and because I talk to everybody, I don't. I'm not a lover, not a fighter in that sense. So I didn't do that. And for me, I had a busy life, like socially, family, socially, friends, everything. I was studying.
Like you have so many friends, you're going out, you've got a big family, everyone's like connected.
There were family politics going on as well.
Well,
yeah.
Every family has politics. Show me a family that don't have politics.
Yeah, but that was being taken advantage of as well.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So is it right to say that at that moment when this was happening, you weren't in a perfect mental space as because there's so much you had already going on in your life that you had stress. So you think maybe subconsciously this was like a out from the regular life that you were living?
No, I think
Do you think this is what drew you a bit closer to the person because you can share the vulnerability that you're feeling as well?
no, because I
No?
didn't share anything private. So this is the other thing. I
Yeah,
didn't.
well,
And
that's good for people to
yeah,
know, isn't it?
this, you know, people assume loads of things. I was too. I only talked to Bobby when Bobby talked to me, and it was very respectful and civil. But I don't have time. Like, you know, who has time like to just do stuff. Like
No,
in
no,
my
I get it.
20s, I had my brother is a lot younger than me, and while everybody else was doing their thing, I also looked after my brother, right? So my, you know, when you came to Spotlight, he was there videoing you.
Yeah.
So as a kid, right? You know, like this kid. So you know, I had a very like I had other responsibilities in my life where my friends didn't. But so I didn't have time. I didn't pay attention. Anything that happened online wasn't important.
Yeah,
Real
right,
life was
right.
important to me.
Going back to it, we come from the era of no Instagram, no TikToks and stuff, and you know it's great and it's a great
Yeah.
way to network now and stuff. But where we come from, like it was grassroots. Everything was grassroots.
Yeah. And even when Bobby, like, so I think what took long, I don't know, I probably became a challenge because any which way I was being approached by Bobby to do something, I was like, oh yeah, that's okay. Like, you know, I back off like, oh, that doesn't bother me, or that's okay, or I don't want to do this, or that's not my thing, or you know, like I'm not interested. I'm not gonna over. I'm not gonna insert myself into somebody
In
else's
somebody
life.
else's life, yeah.
And for me, I found it strange that and I think what made it look bad to me was like maybe I'm backwards. So you know you're being gaslit.
Yeah, well, exactly,
It's
exactly.
constant gaslighting, and I thought maybe I'm backwards because everyone seems to be
Okay
talking
with it, yeah,
online.
yeah, yeah.
Everyone's even his eventually even his parents and everybody was using online, like chatting away
So
online.
his parents' account was fake as well.
Eventually, yeah. All of that. They had WhatsApp numbers. I was talking to his mom on like WhatsApp. So
Well, fake WhatsApp.
yeah, well,
Well,
WhatsApp. Well,
I
obviously
mean, I'm
burner
just saying,
phone,
like
a
it
burner
wasn't her
phone.
though.
Yeah, yeah. But
Wow,
so
wow.
his mom was on. She wasn't on my Facebook or anything. I was talking to her on WhatsApp. But this is my point. That early years, I paid no attention to anything. I was slowly being pulled in, and I was telling my cousin that family's strange. Strange things go on with that family. Why are you so involved in there? Get yourself out of there. Why are you there? I was telling her that. I was like, you just graduated. You've got the rest of your life ahead of you. Stay away from this nonsense. So I'm telling her this. So I'm very, so I, a little bit of me feels like I became a challenge to win over to that.
You became in a competition all of a sudden, and you feel like I need to be the winner of this.
It
Because
wasn't
not to say a
not
winner of
me.
this, but
It was like that person felt like
yeah,
they
yeah.
had to like. What do I need to do to get that
To
person
get yeah,
to?
it became a challenge, it became a game basically. It was literally a game, really,
I
to that
feel
person,
like it.
right? So now
Yeah.
going back to that person, do you think the perpetrator actually understand the magnitude of the situation, what they have done?
No,
From your
I don't think so.
like I don't know if you're allowed to answer this. When was the last time you had contact with that person?
When they confessed.
That was the last time, and that was like 2018.
Yeah.
Wow.
Why would I want to talk to them?
No, I mean, hey, because obviously she's your cousin, I'm sure that. How did that impact the families?
We don't talk.
Well, obviously, I mean that's the case.
It's
But like,
it's tough.
do you think
It's really horrible.
like so? Do you think some of the family, like, do you think out of the families, some people took sides, or was it so blatantly wrong that everyone's like, "What the?"
It's blatantly wrong, but talking about it is what's the problem, isn't it?
It's
Like
taboo
it's a brown
topic, and
community
yeah, our
thing
community is
where
very, very like.
it's not like it's a brown community thing. We're talking about it as taboo because that shame thing. But it's like what's wrong is wrong, isn't it?
100%, no,
And
I
I
totally
know
agree.
I'm not the only victim. I'm not the only person that this has been done to by this person. There are other victims, and I'm the only one that's chosen to speak out because you've got to understand that person had personal information which is used to threaten you. That's what
Yeah, well, I
coercive
mean,
control.
if
Yeah,
look, the person is your family. They have more information on you than any regular person would.
Exactly.
And easily accessible that they can literally come and ask you because you don't know it's them.
But not just them, of my family, of other people as well.
Okay. Sitting with the perpetrator at times, were you ever in the same room with him?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
many times, right? Never ever did you suspect her? Ever? Did it ever cross your mind? Anything odd? Like you were saying in the documentary that she was fiddling with her Apple Watch, right? And texting you at the same time.
Yeah, because I'd be like, oh, what
did you never catch on to
But
that?
why would you not? Like, if you're sitting there fiddling with your phone, if we're just like having tea and drinks and whatever, why would I think
I mean,
that?
it's just, you know what it is? Now because we know, so you're like, how did you not know?
It's
But
all
I guess when you're in it,
great
you don't
in
really
hindsight.
see it,
You're not
right? Like,
thinking. If I was to be like, I'm just checking the time, right? I'm just scrolling.
Look,
Yeah.
did you know we've been on for what, an hour?
Yeah, it's
and we
easily
could talk
done.
for another 20, but I have some other questions I want to answer.
Go
Let me
on,
just
go for it.
lean up. What question am I ask? How could you be so gullible? Has he not sent you a picture? I'm just going to read some questions and we'll address anything.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Let's see, my brother. Wagwan, what's the other questions? The comment section is mad. What that's a question, Paji? He said, didn't you find it odd that a doctor is looking for some sort of a relationship or confining it to somebody being married on Facebook to someone? Don't you think that you find that weird?
I think people's facts are really wrong. Mm-hmm. I think if you haven't heard the podcast, people need to listen to the podcast. And even people who've watched the documentary once and asked questions like that's actually in there. If you listen to this bit, or if you watch this bit, it's very easy to pick up the wrong facts because you think you know what happened. Even I don't know exactly what happened. So it's like we've got everything. We did a civil case. A civil case has gone through all the evidence, right?
Okay.
So yeah.
Now, my question to you, Kirat, is like, obviously, I think the most important factor for me would be, aside from like any sorts of compensation or anything, it would be an actual apology. Was there an apology? An official apology?
A private apology, which I can't share.
No, of course. No, I'm just saying. So there was some sort of a closure there, at least in form of... no, I'm saying... Okay, but do you think that apology was actually just for the sake of just the moment?
It was a business thing.
Okay, well, we won't talk about that.
So it's as in when I say it's a business, for me it felt like
more,
so
basically
it had to be done. I wanted a public apology. They're like, we'll give you a private one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a couple other things. Okay. So after all this and you know, sitting in front of this TikTok, and the world is a very cruel place. We all know.
Yeah.
We've all been against the world at times, especially being musicians and stuff, and you know, anything we do, we could scratch my ear and somebody will have a problem with it, you know? So we've been through that. So I know what the receiving end is like. The world is a nasty place. How do you brace yourself publicly?
So,
because we were talking about it, like you were telling me, now people are recognizing you, and it's like you're walking down the road. They won't say, "Are you?" They're like, "Are you?" You're like, "Hanji."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I've had people come up to me and give me hugs and stuff, and it's really.
No, there is people that sympathize with you, and there is a lot of people that are saying, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
But there's a personal preference, or do you think?
It's very.
That there was some naivety on your part. Do you believe, or do you feel like you were kind of sucked into this?
What people don't understand, and I keep saying this, is the abuse was that bad that you like that it's so on you that you can't turn for whatever. So imagine I'm on a phone with one person, the phone's ringing and it's another person, but you wouldn't think that's one person.
That was
right.
Okay, so another question. They say I'm sorry, I'm jumping in because I don't want to forget people's questions that have come to my head.
Yeah.
You know? Okay, another question was when you went to the house.
Yeah.
You're talking to Bobby.
Yeah.
And the phone rings.
Yeah, they haven't portrayed this.
Why
very well.
didn't you answer it? Somebody said. But you did answer it, didn't you?
I tried to answer it, but because now I